Consideration number 2 of our 6 things to consider before putting extra money towards investments is check to see if your emergency fund is ready for war. Now, with the uncertainty lately of this global pandemic, many people have begun or prepared for the worst. And that means things like job losses, additional medical bills, or even the unexpected loss of a loved one. Now, an emergency fund that is fully funded has the ability to kind of self-insure yourself or weather the storm during these types of events. And that's any event, not just the loss of a job. Now, an emergency fund is a base to a financial plan, and it can be a really valuable buffer instead of having to take money from long-term investments that could be down in value or taking on additional debt to fund everyday life or expenses, such as having to take on credit card debt or personal loans to fund everyday expenses. Now, even if you're someone that feels completely certain or secure about your current job, it doesn't mean you're immune to a loss of income during this time. Now, with different events that happen or crises like we're seeing right now, it's entirely possible that you could be forced to work maybe fewer hours or be subject to a pay cut or even have to take time off to care for a loved one in the future. So an emergency fund can be really, really valuable in times like this outside of just loss of job. Now, how much should you stash away in an emergency fund? The general rule of thumb is to have about 3 to 6 months of salary available in a savings account. And I'm going to repeat that, a savings account that's liquid and not at any market risk. It's important to evaluate the amount of emergency savings that you're comfortable with and that you and your family can get by or get to the other side of a crisis. Now, recently we've seen a lot of changes in the world, such as many people working from home that typically don't work from home. And the biggest thing, in my opinion, is kids being out of school and at home. Now, this results in potential extra expenses that weren't planned for. So as you consider putting additional hard-earned money or income towards investments, make sure you take a hard look at your savings first. You should feel comfortable with your emergency savings and able to live a few months off of that money if you had to. Now, as I always say for an emergency fund, it's there for emergencies only. And it's better to have one and never need it than not have one when you need it the most.